Hi, today I'm gonna talk about a fascinating topic. It's about the 4 stages of human consciousness and its cyclical nature. It's about the evolution of humanity and human consciousness and how it is determined, how it is seen according to esoteric sources, according to occult sources, according to ancient knowledge and astrology as well. But I need to start first, and it includes a lot of science as well, so don't think I'm inventing all this. But first, in order to introduce you to this theme, I need to start with a little bit of physics, with a little bit of astronomy. Don't worry, it's not boring, it's a fascinating subject. First of all, let's see. The planet Earth has 3 important motions. Forever we've known the 3 important motions. The first one is the planet Earth. If it's here, imagine this is Earth. The Earth rotates around itself on its axis. This creates the 24 hours of the day and the night. The descending stage of the day, the ascending stage of the day, 12 hours. The descending stage of the night, 12 hours approximately. So this is the first motion of the Earth, which involves just one body, the Earth rotating around itself. Astrologically, this rotation of the Earth is depicted through the astrological houses, which show the mundane, very material things of life. The first house is the body, the second house is what we eat and our finances and resources, the third house is our siblings and friends, fourth house is our home and family. Now, all these really mundane, practical, everyday life things. They're determined, the houses in astrology, there are 12 houses, they're determined by the rotation of the Earth around its axis. Then there is a second movement of the Earth around the Sun. And you know that the Earth rotates around the Sun, and it makes a full circle every 1 year. As we know, everyone knows this. And it's kind of elliptical. It's not exactly circle. It's always kind of elliptical, going around the Sun. This determines the seasons: the spring, the summer, the autumns. When the Sun is here, for example, we all know that. For example, when the Earth reaches those 4 cardinal points. This is when it looks from the Earth as if the Sun is changing its direction. It starts when it's winter from the 24th of December. On the northern hemisphere, it starts looking as if the Sun is stopping for 3 days. This is the winter solstice, and it starts moving then forward. Starts moving for the next 6 months north, more and more north. Every morning it rises more and more to the north. While when it reaches its peak here in the spring, say if this is the summer solstice, on the 23rd, I think, of June it happens, all of a sudden it looks like the Sun stops moving during 3 days of the sunrise. If it's stationary on the horizon, and it starts moving after that towards south, more and more and more. It starts rising more towards the south. Yes, exactly. So this is when the Earth, the 4 cardinal positions, this movement of the Earth around the Sun determines the 12 zodiac signs. Ancient sources, Vedic books even, they tell us that the signs are tied to the solstices, the summer solstices and equinoxes, those 4 points of the Earth rotation around the Sun, and they're determined, basically they're seasonal. They're not determined by the constellation. Tropical zodiac is determined by the seasons, by the relationship between the Earth and the Sun. And this determines our seasons. When it's spring, everything starts being alive. When it's summer, everything is vibrant. In the autumn, it starts dying. You know all this. So this relationship between the Earth and the Sun determines the 12 zodiac signs, and it's the 12 zodiac signs are like the adjectives. If the houses, which are determined by the rotation of the Earth around itself astrologically, are the tangible things, the signs are like the adjectives. Say if you have your Ascendant, which is your first house, which is your physical body, in Aries. So basically your physical body, the first house, will be Aries-like. Aries will describe the adjective. You might have a more red skin, or you might have a look that is more sporty, more muscular. So the signs, the tropical signs are like the adjectives which you ask for more description. And that's why we have to use tropical zodiac, because the Earth and the Sun are a system, And the tropical zodiac is determined by their relationship. But there is a third motion of the whole sun, our sun here, that we only discovered recently. Physicists only now discovered it. This knowledge was lost for 2,000 years. Humans knew it before that. Humans knew it, but in the dark ages for 2,000 years we lost this knowledge. This whole sun moving together with the earth is also rotating around another humongous star. Ancient sources say this is Sirius. Say it's much bigger than the sun, that big. It's Sirius. So our solar system, the whole sun with all the planets, Jupiter, Venus, and Earth together, rotates around this Sirius. And it's like 26,000 times brighter than the sun, or 26 times brighter than the sun, or bigger than the sun. So it's a humongous star. And it's because of its gravity, the Earth rotates around it, but actually it's not a simple rotation around Sirius. They're in a binary system. They both rotate around each other. It's not only the Earth, the sun, our solar system that rotates around it. It's together, they rotate around it in such a dance. Let me describe it to you. And I'm attaching also pictures here so you can see. If this is the sun, this is Sirius. I'll make them a bit smaller. If this is Sirius, this is the sun, and they have an orbit like that. And the sun, something like that, but they're actually more, sorry about that, a little bit more wide, you know. The orbit of one and the orbit of the other, say they intersect here. And all orbits are elliptical, don't forget. So say this is the orbit of Sirius. And this is the orbit of our sun. So, this is called the precession of the equinoxes. This explains, so basically our sun rotates together. It's in a binary system with Sirius. All ancient mythologies, they speak that Sirius is our spiritual sun, that Sirius is the most important star. It's the brightest star in the sky. And physicists are starting to prove that it's a binary system, our sun with Sirius. And in the moments when the sun on the whole solar system of ours, when it's furthest away from Sirius, on its ecliptical orbit or its ecliptical movement, this is when humanity is plunged into dark ages. And this whole circle that the sun makes around this ecliptical movement that it makes together with Sirius lasts for 24,000 years. 24,000 for the sun to make a full circle around. And this is called in ancient Greece the Platonic year. They knew about it, then it was lost, this knowledge, in the Dark Ages. The Vedic astrology talks about it. It's called the big Yuga, the big age of humanity. One big age. Astrologically, it corresponds basically 24. It corresponds to the 24 hours of our day, in a sense that when the sun, it repeats, everything repeats in cycles. The Earth rotates around itself for 24 hours, but the whole solar system makes a full circle together around Sirius, not exactly around, but in this ecliptical movement for 24,000 years. And according to the distance of the sun and its position in relationships to Sirius, the ages of the consciousness ensue. Let me describe something to you. And how did we notice that the sun is moving around another huge star? Because people start noticing that every few thousand years, the Earth spins around an axis. So at night, when you look at the sky and you take a photograph over a few hours, it looks like all the stars are moving, but one in the middle is not moving. This is where the Earth axis is pointing towards. When the Earth is a bit tilted, when it's spinning around, it will be always pointing towards in the sky, its axis towards one sky or spot in the sky which stays still, and everything else around it looks like it's rotating, but it's the rotation of the Earth. And they started noticing that a few thousand years ago, this static star was Alpha Draconis. Now at our time is the polar star, the North Star. You know, everyone knows it. The North Star is the one that stays always, and all the other stars rotate around it. A few thousand years from now, it will be the star which is called Vega. So it seems like the Earth, the whole sun is moving like that. The whole sun with the planets around it, it's moving in something like that. Like loops, it's doing this, it's moving in a big loop. So when the sun moves here, the Earth is pointing towards the star, say Alpha Draconis. When the sun comes on this part of its ecliptic around this, around Sirius, then the Earth will be pointing to another star, which is right now is the polar star. When it reaches here, it will be pointing to another star, which is Vega. So it's proof that actually the whole of the solar system is moving. And it's actually not moving just in a loop all the time, because then everything would be cyclical. The consciousness would rise and come down and rise and come down, but will come always to the same spot. And it will not be, there will be no evolution will go in circle without moving ahead. But actually the sun is moving like that, like a spiral. The whole solar system is moving like a spiral together with Sirius. And guess what? They're moving as well around the great central cosmic sun, which is called Alpheola. And it's in the middle of the Milky Way. Our Milky Way looks like that, something like, I think like that, like a big circle. Maybe it was like that, sorry. So the Earth and our solar system is around here, and we're rotating around this huge, massive black star or black hole in the middle, which is called like the sun, the central sun, Alpheola. But at the same time, while the sun and Sirius are moving, they're rotating around each other like that, something like that, not exactly, but like that, So every one loop of the sun around, around its orbit around Sirius lasts 24,000 years. Everyone's full circle around the middle of the Milky Way, our galaxy center, takes millions and millions of years. We don't even have a way of measuring this. But we're going to talk about this 24,000 year platonic year. That this loop that the Earth makes, and it keeps coming back. The Earth, a few thousand, 5,000, 6,000 years from now, will point towards the star Vega. Then it starts coming back again. It will point to the North Pole. Then it goes back to Alpha Draconis. So it kind of moves in a circle. So what happens? What did the ancients say to us? I'm doing this cycle. Actually, I'll draw it a bit differently. Sorry about that. Imagine this is, we live, so this is the sun. So just like when the Earth revolves around the sun, we have 4 seasons. The same way when the sun it goes in this binary system with Sirius, we get 4 seasons. When the sun is furthest, the whole solar system is furthest away from Sirius. And Sirius, light in esoteric literature equates to consciousness, equates to knowledge, equates to, so Sirius is a star of great light. So when our solar system is far away from this enormous source of light, the humanity goes in winter. It continues for about 2,400 years. And this is the age called Kali Yuga. In Vedic astrology, the Greeks knew it as the Iron Age. We can call it the winter of human consciousness. Or also Kali Yuga, the dark ages. We started going basically with the sun has been furthest away from Sirius for the past 2,400 years. We're just coming out of the winter period. We're a little bit now, the sun is a little bit here. The sun was at its furthest away point around the coming of Jesus Christ. Around 2,000 years ago to around 500 years after Christ. So this was the darkest period of consciousness for humanity. What does it mean? We were in the winter. It means that humans become more and more separated. They become more and more material. It becomes the winter of humanity. The Iron Age is all about survival. It's not about culture. It's about survival of the fittest, the jungle law. Humans stop their connection with higher power, with the divine consciousness. And you see how we are progressing into the different seasons, how consciousness rises, and humans, when it's closest, when the sun is closest here on its orbit around Sirius, and Sirius is around here, then we're at the summer. And this is called the Golden Age. Golden Age. It's called Satya Yuga in Vedic astrology. Because the sun is closest to the source of light and to their magnetic center in the middle. So consciousness is unity then. All humans feel as one being. They can have separate bodies, but when the golden age comes every 12,000 years, because it takes a descending age, here it is, going down is descending. This is when we're losing consciousness and connection to spirit. Going up is ascending, when the sun is getting closer and closer. Ascending age. Consciousness evolves. But when we're at the most descending stage in the winter of consciousness, this is when basically humans are when are most disconnected. Everyone is fighting for survival. Everyone is your enemy. You don't materiality appears. Humans are no longer aware of the other dimensions, that they're multidimensional beings. Let me check something. Yes, we have time. This is the state of most separatedness. But we need to pass through this stage because we need to learn to manipulate and to use matter. Because if we didn't come to the descending stage and lost consciousness and memories, a lot of knowledge is lost when we go into the Iron Age, which started happening 2,500 years ago, even more, about that time. But this is when, and sages, they knew we're going into a dark age. We're going for about 2,500 years into loss of consciousness, loss of connection with God. There will be lots of wars. There will be lots of hunger. There will be fighting for survival. There will be basically loss of knowledge. Also, many libraries were burnt as well. You know, 2,000-3,000 years ago, this started happening. So they decoded a lot of the knowledge. They hid a lot of the knowledge. It's hidden. And when consciousness starts rising again, we'll retrieve this knowledge back again. They're keepers of this knowledge. Some of them are, they're being kept very well. They're being, and we're not going to access them until our consciousness starts rising, because we're not ready for this knowledge. But before the Iron Age, before the winter, we had knowledge of electricity. We had knowledge about the energies. We were living in something like a paradise state almost 12,000 years ago, when the sun was closest to the star Sirius. So what happens? So now, the Iron Age lasts for about 1,400 years. It consists in this period here. And we started, and that's why, according to esoteric law, a being, a light being, very evolved light being, who is billions years ahead of us in development, came on the Christening of Christ in the Jordan River. This spirit entered within the person Jesus, and this was the Christ consciousness that entered within. And the moment he basically was sacrificed on the cross, this powerful spirit of the Christ consciousness united with the earth, united with the aura of our earth. And over 1,000 years ahead, for 12,000 years, this unification of this powerful spirit, Christ spirit, will be rising the consciousness of humans. And that's why this evolved being, according to esoteric Christianity, came to earth and incarnated in physical body in the darkest age of humanity, when we were furthest away from light. We needed help from within for a light being to connect its aura, powerful aura, with our own earth. So every person within the next few thousand years will have a chance to access it, to unite with this powerful aura of this exalted being, which is called Christ consciousness. Others call it spirit, others call it Holy Spirit, Every culture has different things, but this was a process expected for thousands of years of the coming of this light being, the darkest period of human history, initiates for thousands of years before the descending of consciousness. They were doing those mysteries. They were expecting the coming of this light being, because they knew that humans are losing consciousness. Humans need to be uplifted, otherwise they will degenerate to the level of animals. That always when the sun, the solar system, our solar system is furthest away from this source of light, Sirius. This is when great avatars come in human bodies and merge their aura with the earth to help bring some light and start raising consciousness. Okay, so we're coming out now of the Kali Yuga, in the last 2-3, and the periods of transition are about 200-300 years. And we started coming out of the dark ages around the Renaissance, around 1700. And you see, this is when human rights started coming. It became about art again. They started reviving the arts of the ancient Greece and ancient Egypt. They started venerating again the soul and the spirit rather than just dark lords being around. And it's true, we had such a dark period for 2,000 years, 2,400 years. We're still not yet fully of the Kali Yuga. We started coming out 1,700. The process is about 300 years. The transitional process from the winter period of consciousness to the spring one. So we're like on the verge of spring, so to speak. The sun is just coming out. Spring fully comes here. So we have still quite a lot, couple of thousand years. I think around the age of Capricorn, when is the age of Capricorn, this is when we'll be fully in our spring, but now we're starting the age of Aquarius. The darkest ages was the age of Pisces and the age of Aries, a little bit the age of Aries and the age of Pisces. And I speak about these ages because this circle is divided by 12 constellations. The circle that the sun moves around. Every 2,000 years, a different constellation rises on the eastern horizon. That's why we call it the age of Aries, the age. So it's, like 1, 2, like I have to separate it. But these are the constellations. This is now sidereal zodiac. But it has nothing to do with the personal lives of humans. Like, will I buy a red car or a blue car? Will I marry a young man or an Arabic man? It's determined by the tropical zodiac, which is determined between the sun and the earth, the seasons that we talked about. This constellational zodiac, which is now the big constellation, it determines the huge changes in human consciousness. It's not about our personal, private, everyday life. It's determined by the other two, the rotation of the earth around itself, the houses, and the signs that we talked about. So don't use this constellation, the big constellations that Indian astrologers use, for personal predictions. They don't work. They work only for the huge things of huge importance for the whole of humanity. So say spring comes fully here. So we're just coming out of winter. I would compare it to the time of, February, let's say. And February, Aquarius corresponds to February anyway, for the age of Aquarius. So February, we're close, we can start feeling that the wind gets a bit warmer, and it's a gradual process, it's not a sudden awakening. It takes 12,000 years to ascend. The ascending age is the ascending, which means growth, is 12,000 years. So we've been, the middle point was 2,000 years ago, approximately, 1,500 years, around 500 after Christ. AD. So we've been already on the ascending age, but still in Kali Yuga, still in the dark winter period for 1,500 years, and we're just coming out of the dark period and we're going into the spring, which lasts longer, which is good. The God is mighty and great because it allows us each ascending age to be longer lasting. I think this one, was it 3,600, something like that? Yes, 3,600 years will be in the spring. Then comes the summer. Well, I'll call them with their Vedic names. I don't want to confuse. So this is the Iron Age with their Greek name. The Iron Age in Vedic astrology is called Kali Yuga, the Dark Age. Kali. This is the Silver Age, Bronze Age. In Bronze Age, it's called Dvapara Yuga in Vedic astrology. This is when consciousness for the next 3,600 years will find, and we started already gradually, we're already, in the last 300 years has been transitional. Science flourishes. Humans discover sources of energy unboundedly. We're still at the beginning. We have another 3,300 years to discover amazing, to understand everything about energy, because this is the electric age, the Bronze Age. This is the age when humans discover all this lost knowledge about science, about energy, about what we're made out. We started basically with the discovery of electricity about 1,700 after Christ. And we're fully entering it now from 21st century. And imagine the heights of knowledge we'll achieve during the next 3,600 years. Then comes the Silver Age. And interestingly enough, humans were already in the Bronze Age, but descending a few thousand, when would that be? Like 3,000-4,000 years before Christ, they were part of the Bronze Age. So people in Egypt, in Sumeria, they knew about electricity. They knew about the fine energies. They were not on the same level as us, because as we said, it's always a spiral which evolution is a spiral which goes, the sun moves like that in spiral, but moves a little bit further every time. So every time we go through the same age, even if it's descending or ascending, we're a little bit higher of it than before. So the people about 3,000-4,000 years ago, during the descending Bronze Age, they had knowledge of this. Just a second. And they had knowledge of these fine energies, of the consciousness started rising. In every age, 25% of consciousness rises. At the Dark Age, we had 25% of consciousness. At the Bronze Age, of spiritual merit and understanding of spirituality, at the Bronze Age, will become at 50% over 3,600 years. And then in the Silver Age, which lasts 4,800, it's even longer. Thanks God, light is always brighter. This is when the sun would be somewhere here in the Bronze Age, from this part of its trajectory. Not bronze, but the Silver Age. This is when we have 75% of raising of consciousness and unity, sense of unity. We were fully separated here in the Dark Ages. Everyone thought that just material world exists, there is no God. A lot of people totally just thought life was about survival. There is a lot of cruelty, slavery, and whatnot. We're slowly starting to extricate ourselves in the past 200-300 years with all the information, knowledge coming, going into the Bronze Age. And then comes the Gold Age. Gold Age is the one that lasts the longest. This is paradise. This is God's kingdom on earth. Basically, even the Bronze Age is so much better than the Iron Age. And this one lasts, I think it was 6,000, was it 8,600 years, something like that? Yes. So how much till we get 24,000? Sorry, I can't remember the top of my head, but this makes 5,000 years plus 4,800, but whatever the rest is. I think it's about 8,000 something, And this is when humans are at 100% consciousness and unity with God, spiritual connection, because we're closest to this big source of light, Sirius, which is such a high spiritual influence. People who are born with Sirius prominent in their horoscope, they're amazing teachers, they're geniuses. Nikola Tesla had his sun exactly conjunct Sirius, and some of the biggest teachers in humanity, they were born with Sirius prominent in their horoscope, because Sirius is such a source of inspiration of humanity. The beings that are connected to Sirius, they're highly evolved, they call them angelic hierarchies and whatnot in occult. They're not aliens with spaceships. They don't need physical bodies, but they're connected. They send this powerful energy to Earth of light, of upliftment, of liberation. Sirius is the star of liberation, and so many nations have been liberated around the time of the year when the sun conjoins Sirius in the sky by its movement, which is around July, the Bastille Day in France, Independence Day in America, quite a few countries, around July, from the end of June till the middle of July. And so, yes, Sirius is a star of liberation, of freedom, of knowledge, of union with God, of all the inspirations and knowledge that comes to humanity is streamed to us from those sources there. And it's highest during the Golden Age. This is when a human knows everything. They know their future, their past, they're multidimensional beings. They don't need even a certain loop of the time. During the Golden Age, death disappears. In a sense, humans leave their physical body when they're ready. They're constantly in contact with the other dimensions. Right now in the Kali Iron Age, we do not even know if there is life after that. But in the Bronze, Silver, Golden Age, in Bronze Age, usually about 50% of people start having direct access to the invisible world. In Silver Age, 75%. In the Golden Age, everyone has direct access. You see the people who've passed away, you interact with them, you see the angelic hierarchies, the other dimensions, you become multidimensional being. And then when the Golden Age, you reach the peak, you start going again down towards the descending age for 12,000 years. And what happens? Basically, since about the sinking of Atlantis, which about 12,000 years ago, around 9 or 10,000 before Christ, we started the descending age. So humans were losing from 100 to 75 on every, those years. And the sages knew, the humans they didn't need religions back then. Who needs religion when you directly communicate with the universe, with God? Who needs to follow rules when you see what God's will is and you 100% fulfill God's wills? Now we fulfill only 25% God's wills, what is good for us. That's why there's so much crime and pain and death and illness. When a Golden Age, there is no death, there is no fear of death, there is no illness, the knowledge is full, because it's all about love, helping each other. It's total utopian paradise. And they started losing it. They started losing usually big cataclysms between each age. The switch of each age happens when the sun reaches the solar system critical positions on its orb. Just like there are like big changes in the seasons when the earth reaches spring, summer, and the moods of people. In the winter, when it's winter, we here on earth get depressed. We get the sad syndrome, The same thing when it's the winter of the big cycle of consciousness, the Iron Age, humans are depressed. Humans are disconnected from knowledge. Humans are sad. Humans see no light. It's a difficult existence. Just like at night, when this corresponds on the smallest cycle at midnight, the winter, this is when humans are unconscious. They're passed out, sleeping, and they don't have energy. But we're coming towards the summer, the sunrise now, towards the spring. And Golden Age is the longest one. The Iron Age is much shorter, thanks God, than the Golden Age. But this is at least what the occult sources say. Who knows? And I was talking here that apparently during Golden Age we know everything. And then when the descending stage starts happening, when the solar system starts moving away from Sirius for 12,000 years, this is when the cultures and the societies become very traditionalistic, because they know knowledge will be lost, they know humans will lose contact with higher power. So those cultures that were created in the last 12,000 descending years, they were very rigid because they wanted to keep the morality, the virtue of humans. So they were very traditional, like the Vedic culture in India, like cultures where basically very strict rules have to be followed. So the descending cultures, which appear in the past 12,000 years, and the further back we go, the more developed they were. The more, even with the pyramids, they'll tell you that the latest pyramids that were 3,000-4,000 years old, they were much less advanced and imperfect than the earlier pyramids. Also in South America, you see that 10,000 years ago structures, they were much bigger, more perfect, impossible for us even to do now. And the sooner you come, the smaller the structures become, the less elaborate, the less evolved. It's like we're losing consciousness and knowledge. This is what is happening in the descending age. And their religions are very strict again. Their religions are put there to keep a little bit longer, to prolong the knowledge that is disappearing, and to keep people on the right, not to create too much karma. Because during Kali Yuga, we tend to create so much karma due to ignorance, due to disconnection. And now the rising cultures, the ascending cultures, which started 2,000 years ago, they're like totally wild children, you know. But they have to discover new sources of knowledge. They have to rediscover knowledge. They have to be more rebellious. They have to be much more, let's say, even in a sense, breaking rules. You know, the ascending cultures, they need to rediscover the knowledge again. And that's why it's not good for humans to stick to religions that are thousands of years old, because they were given for descending humanity. Religions which came, you know, they're not bad. They keep a lot of the Vedic knowledge, the knowledge of the ancient, the hundreds of religions before the middle point. And I'm not saying you should not, that they are not right, but they were right for their time. They were right for those nations at that time, when the sun was on a different path in this rotating area, when humans had different consciousness. They were too strict nowadays. They're too. I don't want to create any antagonism religiously, but people should be aware that and they should not think that only one religion is right. Different religions, different teachings are given at different points. And the closer we get to Sirius, we don't need even those teachings. We have direct access to the whole Akashic and knowledge and spiritual knowledge. So the ascending cultures, the first few thousand years of the ascending culture, the first, I would say, 3,000 to 4,000 years, the ascending cultures, like the Western culture, are very disruptive because they're ignorant. They come out of ignorance. They're very rebellious, disruptive. They go against nature. They try to conquer nature. But the more consciousness rises, going into the Bronze Age that we're starting, the more we become incompatible. These cultures, these ascending cultures, start learning more and more and more until a few thousand years from now, we'll be living in perfect paradise. But it's not going to be overnight, you know. There will be stages in between. But it's so much better to be at 50% consciousness than to be at 25 as we've been now. So this is overall the system, how astrology sees it, with the change of human consciousness. We're finally starting to come out of the dark age. So there is hope for us. Thank you.